So yes, it is official. Blizzard today revealed that Diablo 4 is getting some bigger adjustments to the overall experience system. Will this finally help the horrible in-game slog to level 100? Plus, we've got a new hotfix that just went live today. Some concerns about the Nightmare Dungeon updates with new dev responses to that one. A brand new Nightmare Dungeon tier list as well. And the devs respond to the idea of adding campaign boss fights as Pinnacle Dungeon bosses. I think a lot of you will be quite excited about this news right here. Plus, the devs reveal the 6 most rare unique items that can be discovered in the game past level 85, but fans aren't exactly happy about how rare these items actually are. Let's just say when rare is too rare, you have an uncooked steak. So yes, we're going to begin here with that hotfix. So if you didn't hear, there was a previous hotfix before today's hotfix that actually caused issues with Hota. So if you're a barbarian, it was not working right at all. It was a silent, accidental stealth nerf. So check this out right here. It goes on to say this, hotfix 13. So yes, gameplay fixes. They addressed an issue with how many monsters could infinitely spawn in Cellar events. You may or may not have heard about a recent exploit with Cellars, Nightmare Dungeons, and rotating between events. Well, that has been adjusted. You can no longer do that. Next up, we have this one right here for class changes for the Barbarian. They reverted a performance change that inadvertently reduced the damage of Hammer of the Ancients. Now, they said this in the developer notes. Earlier today, we pushed out hotfix 12, which includes stability and performance improvements, changes that affect the Hammer of Ancients. Now, these changes were strictly for back-end performance, but unintentionally also affected gameplay. There are no plans to reduce the damage of Hota with this change. We have reverted this change as this was not intended. So it's back to its original damage. So don't worry about it. Hota is good to go once again. But yeah, we got to continue onward to Twitter because we have some concerns and questions about experience and Nightmare Dungeons, specifically the Nightmare Dungeon update. So check it out right here. It says, bro, seriously, y'all can nerf but cannot fix the experience crap in Nightmare Dungeons. Sad face. And Adam Fletcher of Blizzard responded saying this, we mentioned in the stream last week that Nightmare Dungeons is beyond just XP, as we are also incorporating things like teleporting from dungeon to dungeon via sigils. That isn't a thing you could do in a hotfix. That one requires a client patch for PC and first parties for Xbox and of course PlayStation. And the follow-up response here from Joe says, also additional loot if I remember correctly, but like you said, one of those things is probably just adjusting a number versus actually creating something to work with existing infrastructure. Now, Matt Boyer says this, I appreciate his reply to this, but where is the damage control? 80 plus is an absolute slog. Packaging up multiple things simply to deliver bigger patches is pointless when the more serious community is suffering. And the casuals will hit it soon enough. He has a point. Adam Fletcher did respond saying there are quite a few tweaks to experience coming beyond the Nightmare items, the Nightmare Dungeon items. And I think people always forget that seasons will also have experience bonuses via seasonal blessings. It's also a point right there. And yeah, you know, it looks like that they have plans, like they just said, to adjust what's happening with experience. So I'm hopeful that the slog that is 82 level 100 is less of a slog here very, very soon, and they adjust how much experience is required to get to level 100, or perhaps how much experience you can actually obtain through running events like Nightmare Dungeons, so that, you know, you can actually get to level 100 a little bit quicker, because right now it's absolutely insane what is required from like level 80 to 100. There's a post that detailed if you're at level 85 right now, you are halfway to level 100. So that gives you an idea of how much of a slog it actually is right now. All right, so we got to talk about this post as well. Check it out. It says, Nightmare Dungeons seriously need a rework. Let me know if you agree with this or not. It says, a massive chunk of affixes are just so detrimental that the sigil that has them is useful for nothing but salvaging. You like having your class resource? Don't play with resource burn on about half the maps available. Do you like dealing damage? Well, don't play with monster critical resist. Do you play a melee build don't play with melee defenders. He wraps up by saying there are so many fixes that just make a dungeon whole levels of magnitude harder, not to mention how repetitive Nightmare dungeons are and the mediocrity of dungeons themselves. Now, Nightmare dungeons are by far the least entertaining in-game activity, even though they're supposed to be the one the player is to spend the most time on. Yeah, and I think they need to add more random events. I've said this beforehand, of course, beyond just what the sigil provides. I think we need to see different bosses and perhaps different layouts with like secret rooms that have that like, oh, here is that huge Pinnacle type boss that I want to face off in a Nightmare dungeon. I think that would be very, very cool. Now, also, someone did respond to this saying this: you missed a really important one. Backstabbers, enemies deal 150% damage if they hit you from behind. Another one I would suggest is poison. Enemies deal 20% their damage as poison damage or just poison enchanted. He says, I'm convinced poison in this game is completely broken. Oops, a spider hit me one time and now my entire health pool is poison. Better pop a potion. Still poison. 3 potions later. Oh man, I'm no longer poisoned. I have noticed this as well. I think they definitely need to adjust what's happening here with poison. For some reason, it seems extremely OP, even though I feel like I have resistances on my character. And that's a whole other thing, how resistances are not working as intended. So I think that's one of the bigger issues. And the developers did say officially that they plan a buff or an update to resistances down the road, which is going to be further along the line. So that's not going to be immediate. We've got to talk about, yes, another new updated Nightmare Dungeon tier list. Check it out right here. So this is brand new and fresh. It says Nightmare Dungeon tier list for XP farming. And you could pause the screen as well. You have the optimal tier list right here. This is considered good and then decent. And then you want to absolutely avoid these. I like the look of Black Asylum. I think it's so cool, but I avoid it. Because I know that it's not worth going in there, and I think that they need to buff some of these lower tier dungeons. Please, Blizzard, don't see this list and nerf stuff. But yeah, let's keep going, shall we? So this is an absolutely fascinating post right here. It goes on to say this, and this one comes from Warlord, who says, can one single dev please address this huge issue and simply say, don't worry, they won't be one-time campaign fights only. And of course, he highlights this Reddit thread here discussing the fact that, yeah, we would like to see the story bosses, the campaign boss fights extended into Pinnacle dungeon boss fights. Now, we have the follow-up reply here from the devs right here. Check it out. Joseph Pora says this: launch is just the beginning, giving us some hope that yes, maybe, just maybe, a lot of these story bosses will be returning as Pinnacle dungeon boss fights. That'd be so cool to see. I'm down for this. I really hope that they consider also perhaps tying some of these bosses into the Nightmare dungeon experience with random encounters. I would love to see them as random encounters as well, not just Pinnacle boss fights. I think it would be cool to have more random boss encounters as well on top of what you experience in Nightmare dungeons. Let me know if you agree with that or not. But yeah, let's get into this post about some of the most rare items. I should say they are considered to be the absolute most rare items in the game. Some insights from the dev team right here. Check it out. This one comes from Adam Jackson of Blizzard, who says, hello, I wanted to clear up some details on the rarest unique items in Diablo 4. They can drop from level 85 plus enemies. You get them anywhere. You can get a regular unique, and they always drop at 820 item power. We currently have 6 of them in the game. They're really rare. And here they are, ranging from the Doombringer, the Grandfather, all the way to rings. And of course, we have helms. And I imagine that probably most of you have never seen them at all because they're beyond level 85. Plus, again, they're considered extremely, extraordinarily rare. In fact, I've hardly heard anyone mentioning that they have actually obtained these items. And that is actually something the community is bothered by. So check out some of the replies out on Reddit. It says this one right here. It says, yeah, still thinking their math equation is way off. Really rare, and only 2 confirmed Shaco drops in the whole world are very different. I'm cool with Diablo 2 HR level rare, like maybe drop 1 a season, but as a whole should be way more posts of people finding these. It's also possible that they're intentionally low to give players an incomplete experience and boosting them in the future to incentivize players to return. The conspiracy theories. Right now, I just think that there's two things going on here, or actually multiple things going on here. Number one, the fact that you can only get these past level 85 is a concern because a lot of people, I think, just kind of give up on their characters at around that point because they don't want to commit to this slog that they're hearing about to level 100. Again, remember, like when you're at level 85, you're only truly halfway there to 100, which is just madness. So a lot of people are like, I give up. Plus, you have to also remember that there's only 6 of these items out of the entire loot pool. Why isn't there like 12 or even 20? You know, I think that's also a problem considering how rare these items already are. And yeah, the actual rarity of the items themselves seems to be a big problem. Yes, we want items to be rare. We want that moment where we're like, oh my God, I finally found it. But if it's like 1% of the actual player base is allowed to experience these items, that in itself, yes, is a very big problem. They're going to have to adjust this in the future, I do believe. Now, we have some replies here. Check it out. It says, I think a lot of people stopped before they got to level 85, so the drop rate seems super low because, well, the amount of people playing high tier content is super low. That could be a possibility, but it says there's tens of thousands of people at 100. There should be at least one Reddit post of a person on a US server getting one of these 6 items once. I'm almost positive they just threw in some bad conditional logic and calculated the drop odds incorrectly with some paper napkin math, and now they're sticking with it. It'll be changed in a season 2 max. Yeah, I think it will be adjusted. I think it's going to have to be adjusted. And we have this one right here. Yeah, I turned 72 on Barbarian recently. Realized there are only 3 items in the game that will give me significant power boosts, and none of them actually change the way I would play. The game from 70 plus on is solely grinding for gear with a 0.5% better stat than going through the reprinting, upgrading, socketing routine. Pretty dull. Hope seasons really shake things up. So some people are just looking to seasons at this point to fix certain issues in the game. And I really think that perhaps the dev team will have to hold another live stream. Now, about that, we should be getting a brand new live stream in early July or mid-July even, that they are going to be talking about seasons. They are going to be talking about updates to the game. So that's when we could look forward to hearing about potential updates to the, I guess you would say, really late in-game experience that needs to be adjusted badly. And we have another question out on Twitter. Check it out. It says this one right here. Any thoughts to a discounted battle pass if you completed the current one, even just for other class cosmetics? I remember on Immortal, I wanted to get the cosmetics for other classes when I finished, but there was no option. And let's scroll down to the official response here from Rod Ferguson, who says this: Diablo 4 Battle Pass cosmetics are class agnostic, so you earn them for all classes. So if you didn't know that going into this, yes, the Battle Pass will be offering, you know, some really cool cosmetics that can be applied essentially to all of your classes. So at least there's that as good news. Now we have this one right here as well. Can we please have communication regarding the VRAM memory leak? It's affecting a lot of us. Game is truly amazing, by the way. I enjoy it so much. I bought a new GPU to play it. Guys, I'm about to buy the 4080. I cannot wait. So yes, I'm looking forward to seeing what the updated visuals of Diablo 4 look like through ray tracing and DLSS 3. But anyway, we have Adam Fletcher who says this: we talked on stream about having numerous PC optimizations coming in the next few client patches before season 1. So yeah, there are going to be some PC optimization stuff that you can look forward to, and it seems like they are going to be addressing that memory leak issue as well. All right, back to Reddit. Let's go. So we have this one. You should be able to bind your town portal to your favorite capital. Yes, make it happen, Blizzard. It says, honestly, it would save me so much time instead of opening my map and clicking on give a shot every time. I should just be able to right click on it and set it to favorite. I like give a shot because everything is so close to the waypoint and there isn't any terrain in the way, but I'm sure everyone has their own preferences. It shouldn't matter where in the world you are, especially if you're running dungeons, because if you want to go somewhere else, it's easy to click on the waypoint that isn't your default. Such an easy quality of life change to make. I agree. That's my go-to town, by the way, as well. It's just easy to memorize where everything is. It's closely packed together and it's easy to get around. Next up, we have this one right here. I kind of hate the build lock-in in Diablo 4. So, been enjoying Diablo 4 and I've gotten to level 81 on my rogue. I love the pin shot build I'm running, but I hate the fact that if I want to run an alternate build based on Flurry or Twisting Blades, I'm better off making 2 new characters and leveling and gearing them up. By the way, this sucks both for a time investment perspective. Hello, fellow gamer dads with 25 jobs and 700 kids. And from a character freedom perspective, play how you want. I want to be able to switch my builds on the fly depending on the content I'm running. For example, Nightmare, Dungeon Push, Pin Shot, Hell Tides, TB or Flurry, PvP, TB. And then you have Open World, Flurry. If I want to change my build now, I will 100% go broke and burn all my gold for a respec, manually have to click all the Paragon away and switch out boards and glyphs, manually have to set up the skill tree click by click, have to use a third-party app like D4 Build to keep track of my builds since there is no in-game option to do so. I know this was the intended design Blizz has for builds in Diablo 4, but I hate it and I don't even understand why they had this design choice in the first place. Every single player in our little guild hates this and is actively stopping them from any form of experimentation. They all just said F it and followed a build guide. No one will try and make a build for the upcoming season, and neither will I. I'm just going to copy paste max roll because F this build system we have now. Come on, Blizzard. Change this already. Make build respec an option in game. He has a very good point. You know, one thing that I've noticed playing the Whirlwind Barbarian, it's not particularly powerful in some ways versus, you know, bosses, single target enemies. I need to adjust it, and I want to be able to adjust on the fly. And Whirlwind, for me, is excellent for clearing those nightmare dungeons. And then when I get to a boss, I kind of want to change it up. So yes, I do think that there needs to be options for this going forward in the future. And it just seems like a lot of the community is saying, hey, you know what? We want more freedom. Just give us the option to also very easily, one click, be able to redo our entire Paragon board. You know, that's what a lot of players want. All right, so now it's time to get into your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up in a future video. So yes, we're going to start out with my YouTube members. Again, thank you so much for joining. If you decided to actually click that join button below, you have a higher chance, of course, of appearing at the tail end of my videos as a top comment. So let's get into this right now. We have this one right here from Almost, I believe it is, 8165, who says this: keep up the excellent videos. All your videos are in-depth. Keep gamers up to date and have a relaxing, chill vibe to them. Hopefully Blizzard stops being a hall monitor and lets gamers just enjoy the game. I've never understood why game developers get upset by too much loot. It would be as if I ordered a piñata and candy started falling out, and then the manufacturer all of a sudden started putting duct tape over it and stopped letting the candy fall. Fingers crossed for the massive patch. That's a good metaphor right there. Yeah, you know, of course, I think people are still bummed about the overall dungeon nerf to mob density. They want you to head into Nightmare Dungeons. So I'm hoping that in some way they make us very excited for Nightmare Dungeons. Especially if they do some updates to them in Season 1. There needs to be more incentive to go into Nightmare Dungeons, and it needs to be more interesting. Right now, there's just some Nightmare Dungeon mechanics that are actually kind of a pain, and it feels like just such a letdown heading into some of these Nightmare Dungeons. So yeah, some adjustments need to be made for sure. So great points there. Now, let's get into your top comments on my latest video, which was this one right here. Diablo 4 just got a new update. Devs on Nightmare Dungeon buffs and our players quitting. So are you guys quitting Diablo 4? Do you feel like you're giving up? Or are you still enjoying what's on offer here? Are you enjoying the grind, I guess you would say? But yeah, let's get into what Adam T. Cole had to say right here. He goes on to say the following: I wish weekly nightmare strongholds. I would love weekly nightmare strongholds. Old strongholds could be lost, or main cities could be overrun with new story beats. God, I love that. That is so cool. Now, imagine the church taking over the main city. Let me see. And losing all of the merchants until you clear them out. Add in affixes with unique bosses, and you'd have a fun reason to come back every week. Yeah, I'm on the fence about losing access to merchants because I think that could actually end up being more of a pain in the butt, So they have to be careful about doing that sort of thing. I get what you're saying, but when it comes to taking away absolutely crucial key gameplay mechanics for trading, buying, selling, imprinting, enchanting, I don't think that should ever be taken away from players. It could be just become such a slog and a pain. Like, oh my God, the town is overrun again. All I want to do is enchant. You know what I mean? So they need to be careful with that. If they do strongholds or do these nightmare strongholds, they should do it in areas of the maps that are, in my personal opinion, kind of untouched from merchants and that sort of thing. So yeah. Also, again, Helltide strongholds, would love to see this as an option as well. But overall, I think that's a great idea. Next up, we have this one right here. Zizek Sky says, I have personally sunk over 100 million into respec costs, trying things out on my rogue because I like doing my own builds and have the time to farm it out. I feel farming a few dungeons to work towards a full swap is a nice interaction, but 13 dungeons, if you are getting 1 million per run, is a bit much. I think it should be around 5 to 7 dungeons worth of gold, to full respec. I just feel with how high it is now, really encourages metagaming and following guides more than it adds weight to your decisions. 13 each dungeons might not feel as bad when they add the instant teleport to dungeon keys, however. Not sure if it is the amount of dungeons or the amount of times my horse gets stuck traveling between keys. That is the true annoyance with changing things. Yeah, it just seems like some people don't like the slog at all. They just want to be able to respec. So that might be the issue. Why not run the dungeon seeking out the new gear and focusing on that and bettering your character instead of reworking your character, and being punished for wanting to rework your character. So it's definitely an interesting discussion. I get where Blizzard is coming from in some ways. I do understand they want your character to matter, and they kind of want you to cement your build and then every season try something new. But it just seems like it's becoming an irritation to most players. All right, so we have Ultra Kev 81 who says that would actually be a really cool idea in Diablo 1. The dungeons went incredibly huge and deep. That said, imagine a dungeon that would just go on and get more difficult as the further you go down. Like infinite dungeons, see how far you can get and kind of have bragging rights to that. I get that. That would be very neat. But yeah, thank you all so much for love and support on the videos. Look out for more Diablo 4 news and updates. I have you guys covered, and I will see you all next time. Take care.